Hello everyone, my name is Alima Sirek and it is my video report on ICT 7. So, I have attended 4 webinars during first semester, and the first webinar was provided in 24th September by Nazarbayev University School of Science and Humanities Writing Center. The Zoom link was shared with us via email, so there was no need to register separately for this event. I was interested in this webinar because of the topic. It is contrastive analysis, Russian speakers writing English. The main reason of my interest is, of course, that I am a Russian speaker and we have a lot of writing assignments in our NUZI program. So I expected to get some tips which can help to improve my writing skills and which I can implement in the future assignments. And so the host of this webinar was Lori Ans, and the speaker is Arlis Menzies. First, that I want to mention that the Zoom was in the webinar mode, so I didn't see any participants, so I cannot evaluate their verbal and non-verbal involvement into this webinar. Also, we didn't have any particular Q&A session, but during whole presentation we have time to ask questions in the chat, so the host read these questions loudly and speaker can ask. So and speaker can answer these questions. So what else about this webinar? I think that host and speaker was really good because they made a good atmosphere where we can talk to each other. We text for them and they answer these questions. So it is warm and friendly atmosphere. Also, overall, the event was really helpful because a speaker highlighted main mistakes which made all Russian speakers because of our language structure, especially in grammar. So I think that this webinar helped me to improve my writing skills, and my assignments became more and my assignments became better. Now let's move on to the second webinar. So it was held 13th of October, and there are 3 speakers. All of them are from our Nazarbayev University, and they are psychologists, psychotherapists. They are experts because the topic was World Mental Health Day. This webinar was linked with this worldwide known day. So the main goal of this webinar was provide information about importance of mental health, and that these diseases are equal to physical issues, and we need to consider them, and we need to help to each other to solve our mental problems. The first point that I need to mention is that all speakers speak Russian, but in the webinar was a translator who translate all their speech into English, so we can participate in English and in Russian also. After each speaker presentation, there was time for asking question for the speaker, and overall, after whole presentation, after whole webinar, we have a Q&A session where we able to ask several questions, and speaker answer them. I was interested in this webinar because I think that it is really important to know about mental health, and speakers talked about different mental health and how to overcome it, and know how to help to your friends, to your close people. So I think that it is a really important issue nowadays. So it was very helpful, and I also pleased that Nazarbayev University provides such big support for students, because studying process can be stressful for us sometimes, and it's great that we know that we can text, email, or call for experts. So let's talk about third webinar. It was held in 12th of November by Nazarbayev University, Society of Petroleum Engineering student chapter. I found this webinar via social medias, particularly in Instagram, because I am a member of Society of Petroleum Engineers, because my bachelor degree is petroleum engineering, and I subscribed in Nazarbayev University student chapter. This webinar was related with their anniversary, and they introduced their speaker. It was Mike Cunningham, who has a lot of experience in our industry, in oil and gas industry. Especially he worked in Shell. It is worldwide known big company. The topic was the future of oil and gas industry, overcoming challenges. I was very interested because the future of this industry is related with world economy and also with Kazakhstan, because we are dependent by the oil and gas industry, and we have a lot of factories and companies who are focused on oil and gas. So let's move on to the webinar. Firstly, I want to say that speaker prepared a good presentation. It was clear with figures, pictures, and clear text. About participants, they weren't a lot of them, maybe 15, and most of them switched off their cameras, but they were involved into the process, into the webinar, because after the presentation we have Q&A session where we were able to ask questions. Especially for me, I asked about the influence of during situation with pandemic on oil and gas industry, and also the other students asked a lot of questions, really interesting questions. I think that most of the participants was Nazarbayev University student chapter members, so it was very helpful. I was expected to know about the future, because nowadays all discussed about renewable sources of energy, and it's important for us to know what will happen with fossil fuels. And it was really helpful to know that oil and gas industry have a promising future, and I found interesting information about uh, new inventions and new technologies. So it was a really interesting and helpful presentation. And finally, first webinar. Actually, I didn't attend this webinar, but I watched the record in the website of SSH Writing Center. And this webinar was divided into two parts, because first one was held 22nd of October. The second one was in 29th of October. I collaborate them, and now we talk about it. I collaborated because they are linked with one topic. It is literature review. I was really interested in this webinar because we have writing assignments in academic writing, and also we analyze a lot of articles, papers in our academic reading class. So literature review is essential point for these assignments. And as I know, in the future during master program we will write papers, articles based on other sources, so we need to know how to manage a literature review and how to choose right sources. So I thought that it will be very helpful to see this video. Actually, the Zoom link was shared with us via email as the first and second webinar, but I couldn't attend it, so I watched the record. First of all, I want to mention that speaker interact with audience very well, and I think that there was a Q&A session, but it wasn't recorded. So also the Zoom wasn't in webinar mode. I think that because of this, speaker can collaborate, interact with audience, but in the records I didn't see their faces, so, and I couldn't evaluate their attention. Overall, I think that this topic is really important for us, and this webinar was really helpful because speaker highlighted main mistakes, how to choose sources for your work, how to manage them, how to correct write it. So it was really helpful to know about literature review. In conclusion, I want to say that all webinars were helpful and interesting. If I need to choose one of the topics, the most interesting was about the future of oil and gas industry, because it was about predictions, it was about the future, about the industry and world economy in the future. So it was really interesting. But if we talk about the how helpful was this topic, I think that the webinar about literature review will be the most helpful in the future in my master program, because I will use the skills. And if I need to choose one speaker who I liked, I think it will be Erlis Marinzes from the first webinar, because her speech was smooth and she asked a lot of questions during her presentations and answer our questions, not only in Q&A session but also during some points of presentation. And also I would like to attend Mike Cunningham lectures or some master class in the future, because he is really experienced and in oil and gas industry, and I would like to talk to him all. And he shared with us his email, so we can text him some questions about the topic of webinar about the future of oil and gas industry. And I think this feedback is really important for us. So overall about the ICT 7, I think I managed the time of webinar pretty well, because I started to attend them during September, and so I can finish all webinars before deadline. But I think that in the future, for the second semester, I need to uh, record videos after webinar, because your feelings, your thoughts will be fresh, and you can put it in the more interesting way, and also it will help to manage time at the end of the semester. So that's all. It is my video report for ICT 7. Goodbye.